You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Challenge us at Wexford Insurances 0818 31 30 30.
I'm joined now by Colm Neville, President of Enniscorthy Chamber and Managing Director of the Riverside Park Hotel. Good morning, Colm, and thank you very much for joining me this morning.
Good morning, Karl. Thank you for having me.
Colm, you might start by telling me, what was the highlight of 2012 for Enniscorthy Chamber?
Well, Karl, I'd have to say that the addition of the new Christmas lights throughout the town is definitely the highlight of the year for us. We're delighted with how people are speaking of them and how on every corner everyone is commenting on the appropriateness of them and the abundance of them. We're thrilled with the feel-good factor it's giving to everyone that's visiting the town, and we're really appreciative of the Town Council's investment of over €40,000 in them this year, and it's had a huge impact. We're thrilled with that, to be honest.
I know that the Town Council in Enniscorthy is a very, very active one, and a lot of investment has been made over the past few years on some of your tourist-related sites in Enniscorthy. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, thankfully, Karl, we've got a very good relationship with the Town Council, and they've definitely invested heavily in the town, whether it be the walk down by the river, which has been hugely successful, or the award-winning castle that won first prize in the tourism sector of the Chambers Ireland local government awards this year. We're very proud of that. And yes, from the hotel's point of view, I can tell you that the feedback from our guests is great from the point of view of the positive results, the positive feedback and the positive comments of those experiencing this area. I suppose what we probably need to do is pull that together within a county-wide structure, and we're involved, the Chamber is involved through Enniscorthy Tourism with Visit Wexford, and that's where I see the key to bringing more visitors to the county as a whole. We need more critical mass. People are not coming just to Enniscorthy, just to Wexford, just to New Ross. People are more interested in sound bites of experience now, and they need various places to go. So Visit Wexford is working to pull all that together, and we're very excited about that for the coming year.
How important is tourism to Enniscorthy?
It's critical. In my view, it's huge, and the Chamber's view is fully recognised that one of the main advantages Enniscorthy has is its uniqueness from the point of view of its historical background, the streets, the hills, the whole attractiveness from an architectural point of view that you're not going to get in any new build. We've got the castle, the 1798 centre, and of course Vinegar Hill, which we're hopeful will get some further investment for in the coming years, because it probably could do with a little bit more investment, but even as it is, it's highly sought after from international visitors, and we're really sitting on a gold mine from the point of view of attracting international visitors to the county as a whole.
How has business been in general in Enniscorthy over the past 12 months?
Look, there's no secret about it. Enniscorthy, the same as any of the rest of the towns throughout the country, are feeling the pinch at the moment. Clearly, it's tough times. Clearly, there's big challenges, whether it be rates, whether it be rents, whether it be falling turnover is really probably the biggest problem. Because, of course, with the austerity measures that have to be imposed at the moment, people don't have the same money in their pocket. They're not leaving it in the shops. But look, having said all of that, we're very proud of the fact that in the year gone out, Enniscorthy has had 23 new business openings. Now, for a town of its size, that's a very positive and good news story. So we're very, very hopeful that trend will continue. We in the Chamber will certainly be putting together a log of vacant premises. We've had a number of inquiries of businesses wanting to come into the town and maybe not having exactly the right sort of properties or outlets to go into. But sometimes it can be about them, not about us all not knowing what might be available or what might be possible, and we're going to try to match supply and demand with that in the Chamber in the coming year, and we've a challenge in that, but it's one that we're happy we can rise to.
You mentioned austerity there, Colm. The budget last week, what are your thoughts on it?
The government is in a very unenviable position at the moment. Clearly, their biggest challenge, as the Chamber would see it, would be getting the deficit into order and getting people back to work, employment. From the employment point of view, there was a number of measures that probably had been muted that we were glad hadn't been, that hadn't changed or hadn't came on the horizon. the sick pay scheme to the private sector, that certainly would have been a major blow to competitiveness. The continuation of the 9% for hospitality, etc., that's been a huge help for employment, and we're very, very glad that that's untouched. We would like to see that being committed for an extra year, that on a rolling 2-year basis, because a lot of things are contracted out that far out, and you need certainty, obviously, with tour operators and stuff for visitors that might be coming in. But, you know, there's obviously been some tough decisions made and had to be made. Have they all been made in the best areas? It's difficult. They're in a no-win position. Certainly, you'd question maybe some of the areas, the child benefit, the carers, that's got so much media attention at late, as to what it's gaining for them and whether it was the best choices. It's difficult to say. I mean, really, in the areas of the sick pay in public service, where that cost 500 million, I understand, in 2011, surely maybe concentrating on reducing those days in the public sector might yield greater benefit and might be a more equitable approach. But again, I'm not being overcritical. They had a very, very difficult job to do, and at least manufacturing services, the right sounding seems to be coming from the country overall. Some people are wondering, where is that money? But there's exports are strong, and the right indicators are there. I'm very, very pleased to hear that the government are saying that this will be the toughest budget, because I think the people need a break at this stage. We need to see budgets getting easier in the coming years, and I very much welcome that soundings at least.
Colm, I know Chambers Ireland were lobbying the government to roll back in relation to redundancy payments, where, for instance, in the past, the state would pick up the tab in relation to the majority of the cost of making somebody redundant. But instead, the government decided in Budget 2013 that when an employer is going to make somebody redundant, the employer is going to have to cover 100% of the cost. Surely this is a retrograde step for business.
Yes, Karl, this is a real problem for business and for continuing employment in businesses. People may not necessarily see the connection there straight off, but the problem is that if a business needs to resize and downsize in order to survive these times, they need to be able to let people off without having a huge cost associated with it. As it is now, the business has to pay 2 weeks for every year, and it runs up to a big cost over time. I probably should take you back that this redundancy payment by the government came in as a 2-part package, where previously employers had to pay half a week for every year, and the government got agreement to move that to 2 weeks a year, but they would pay 85% of the redundancy payment. That went down to 60. Last year was down at 15, and now is gone altogether. But the effect of it, they've pulled out of their part of it, part of the agreement, but they've left us with the 2 week, left businesses with the 2 week burden for every year that people have worked. And they either need to reduce that commitment, that would have to come back to at least a week for every year, or they need to step back in and assist us in that area, because as it is at the minute, businesses will end up with people that they don't have the work for, but they can't afford to let them off, and it'll bring the business down. Businesses have to stay super lean at the moment to survive these times. So yes, retrograde is definitely a word I would use for it.
Colm, mortgage interest relief has been discontinued in Budget 2013. What message do you think that's sending out to the construction sector?
Karl, I think it's an awful pity that was dropped. I know of a number of builders that had said that it had started some little bit of movement. The Dublin area had seen a little bit of a pick-up at least, and let's face it probably has to happen there before it'll happen down the rest of the country. And I think it was a terrible mistake to pull it. I know of a number of people that had said that they had more closings in December of this year, or more closings due, than the rest of the year entirely. So it was working a little, it was attracting people. The 3-year the 3-year relief on the household charge that they're offering instead of that for new houses or for vacant houses, I don't believe will cut the mustard in the same way at all. It won't add up to the same advantage to the buyer, and they should, in all honesty, in my belief, have left it there, because if we can get construction going again, it's the one big part that's missing in our economy at the moment, because God knows when it was flying it was sending the whole country mad, you might say, but by God we're a long way away from that now, and a healthy construction industry will always leave a lot of employment out to various sectors of the economy. It takes so many other sectors of the economy into the picture to service the healthy construction industry. It's the one thing that I believe the government should be focusing much more on, and therefore I believe that the mortgage interest relief should have been extended and left run into the coming year.
Colm, before we talk about your commercial outlook for the Chamber and for business in general in 2013 for Enniscorthy, I'd like to ask you about your own hotel. You know, the hotel sector is quite a tough one to operate within in these times, especially when competing against NAMA hotels. How was 2012 overall for the Riverside Park Hotel?
Thankfully, Karl, it was a very good year for us. We would have budgeted ever so slightly up on the year previous. We've beaten budget. We've gone a little ahead of that. Look, it's not massive to write home about. Everyone is working harder, for longer, for less. There's no doubt about it. But we're working. We're there, and there's a lot of jobs in the hotel in the Riverside still. The people that are there are appreciative of the jobs. They very much put emphasis and work hard at welcoming the customer. Listen, they arrive at the door of the hotel with the same problems as all the customers. Austerity hasn't avoided their door either.
Philip Gavin from the Talbot Hotel was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he was telling me that 2013 was going to be a much slower year on weddings because people found that the number 13 was an unlucky number and they didn't want to get married in that particular year. He was saying that he's expecting wedding bookings to be down by up to 30%. Would you concur with that?
I concur with it in so much as I know that that is definitely the commentary among my colleagues, without a doubt.
The focus on 2013, what are your thoughts, I suppose, from the Chamber perspective in terms of how businesses are going to perform next year?
I suppose, Karl, I'm very concerned about the duration that a lot of businesses have had to suffer through these last years and how difficult it is in business. But I have to say, I'm very encouraged, maybe a little surprised, and when you tot up all the numbers, it's brilliant to see. Very encouraged by those 23 openings in Enniscorthy in the last year. That's a very positive barometer that there are people out there prepared to take a chance and can see and believe in the town of Enniscorthy and believe in that business that is worthwhile being in business. God knows, we know there's a lot of work goes with it, but on the other hand, those that are in business probably wouldn't trade it for all the tea in China, because there's a great satisfaction to be got out of bringing it together. Look, you hope that there's going to be some sort of a surplus at the end of your year. It's all you work for to try and survive, obviously. But above all else, you know, you really do enjoy being involved in business, making it all happen. And there's enough people out there believing in all of that to open 23 units in Enniscorthy in the last year. That's very encouraging, and it's for people like that I think the Chamber has to exist, and that we've got to be positive for into the future.
Before we finish, I'd just like to relate one thing in relation to Minister Howlin. He included the Enniscorthy bypass in his stimulus package a number of months ago. That's going to go ahead next year. What are your thoughts on that?
We have to welcome it. It's going to be a huge investment. That and the flood relief scheme this year have been highlights. I should have mentioned, I suppose, for Enniscorthy in the past year. It's all investment in the area. There's concerns obviously about being bypassed, but all the history tells us that if we handle that right, and if we can make Enniscorthy the destination that it should be, getting around the town will be easier, parking in the town will be easier, trading in the town will be easier, and all the history shows us that towns tend to thrive when they're bypassed rather than the opposite. So we've no reason to believe that Enniscorthy won't rise to that same challenge, and it'll only mean good for the future for Enniscorthy.
Well, Colm, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for speaking to us this morning, and I wish you continued success with both Enniscorthy Chamber and the Riverside Park Hotel.
You're listening to South East Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Think Wexford Insurances for your business insurance.